You ever get laughed at by someone who sells self-help books out of their SUV? That's what happened to me the day I told my family I was going into auto repair. Not MIT. Not pre-med. Just trade school. A wrench, a lift, and a dream. It was a Sunday barbecue. The kind where everyone brings store-bought potato salad and pretends they made it. I had just graduated high school, barely, and was still sweating under my cap when I broke the news. Uncle Gary, who once tried to become a life coach, after getting fired from 3 car dealerships, nearly choked on his lemonade. Auto repair? He coughed, wiping his mouth like I'd said grave robber. That's not a career, Derek. That's a hobby with oil stains. Everyone laughed. Not politely. Loudly. Like I'd said I was becoming a mime. My mom smiled that tight smile she used when someone pointed out the dent in our front door. Well, Derek's always liked fixing things, she said cautiously, like it was a personality flaw. Uncle Gary just waved his burger like a TED Talk prop. You're smart, kid. Go into tech. Learn JavaScript. Don't throw your future away under some busted Corolla. Meanwhile, his son, my cousin Brady, was live streaming from the lawn about NFT sneaker futures. And somehow he was the family prodigy. I didn't say anything. Just took a bite of my hot dog and looked out over the backyard where we used to play football before Uncle Gary invested in a croquet set no one asked for. The thing is, I did like fixing things. When I was 10, I took apart my mom's vacuum and put it back together just so it would stop sounding like it had asthma. At 12, I was changing our neighbor's brake lights. By 15, I could diagnose engine problems by sound alone, a skill my school counselor said was cute but not career-ready. I didn't care about suits or boardrooms or apps. I liked engines. I liked grease. I liked the satisfaction of solving something real. But no one in my family saw it that way. To them, I was just Derek with the dirty fingernails. They loved calling it a phase. Like fixing a carburetor was the gateway drug to failure. My mom meant well, I think. She'd say things like, "You're just like your dad, always good with his hands." Which, I guess, was sweet until you remembered that my dad left when I was 8, and the only thing he ever fixed was a broken promise. Still, she worked double shifts to keep us afloat. We lived in a rental with one working heater and a back door that needed hip checking to close. I didn't blame her for worrying. She just wanted me to have a life with less duct tape. But Uncle Gary? He was different. He didn't just doubt me, he mocked me. Constantly. At every family gathering. Still changing tires for lunch money? Got that mechanic musk on you. Is that diesel or despair? Hey Derek, maybe you can tune up my golf cart. It's having an identity crisis. It wasn't clever. But it was consistent. By the time the barbecue ended, I'd heard enough. So when he asked, with his fake sincere smirk, "You really think fixing cars is gonna get you anywhere?" I just looked him in the eye and said, "Further than whatever pyramid scheme you're hawking this week." That shut him up. Briefly. I walked home after that. Didn't ask for a ride. Didn't want one. In my pocket was a crumpled acceptance letter from Westview Technical Institute. Not a big name. Not even a long name. But it had a garage, an instructor who didn't talk down to me, and a payment plan I could barely afford. I knew one thing for sure walking down that sidewalk that night. They could laugh all they wanted. I wasn't building dreams for their approval. I was building them out of busted transmissions, scraped knuckles, and stubborn grit. Trade school didn't come with dorm parties or spring break. It came with vending machine dinners and radiator burns. I started classes at Westview Tech the following fall, no scholarships, no help from home. Just a beat-up duffel bag, a box of tools I bought secondhand off Craigslist, and a part-time job delivering pizzas in a car that sounded like it had bronchitis. Monday through Thursday, I was in class by 8 a.m., grease under my nails, notebook full of torque specs and engine diagrams. Friday through Sunday, I was stacking shifts, pizza guy by night, janitor at a gym by morning. I didn't sleep much. But man, I learned everything. My instructor, Mr. DeMarco, was a grizzled X-race mechanic who called everyone rookie and smelled like carb cleaner. He didn't care if your GPA was trash, if you could diagnose a bad alternator blindfolded, you were golden. I like that kind of fairness. No family name. No handouts. Just skill. Meanwhile, back home, the family updates kept rolling in. Brady had launched a wellness vape brand. Uncle Gary posted daily LinkedIn sermons about grind culture and generational wealth. Every status read like it was generated by a motivational fridge magnet. Mom called occasionally. She'd ask if I was eating, if I needed money. But it always came with that nervous tone, like she was afraid I'd say yes. So I didn't. I figured out how to stretch $30 over 2 weeks. A gas station down the road sold 2-for-1 egg salad sandwiches if you came after 8 p.m. I got real familiar with those. The guys in my class called me tow truck, partly because I was always helping people jump their cars, but mostly because I always looked one breakdown away from a total collapse. Still, I loved it. There's something deeply satisfying about turning a busted, wheezing machine into something that purrs. It made me feel capable. Useful. Like maybe I wasn't wasting my time. The first time I got paid for a freelance fix, an old lady's '97 Camry that wouldn't start in the cold, she handed me $40 and a tin of cookies. "Reminds me of your granddad," she said. "He used to fix everything." I didn't know my granddad. But that day, I felt like maybe I had his hands. That $40 went straight into a jar labeled Garage Fund. At the time, I had $41 in it. I didn't care. It was a start. When my classmates were partying after finals, I was patching tires in a friend's backyard for 20 a pop. Word spread, Derek's fast, honest, and won't talk to you like you're an idiot. I didn't need a billboard. Just results. And then one night, around 2 a.m., on a freezing Thursday, I was under a Civic in a grocery store parking lot, fixing a leaking hose, when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Voicemail. Uncle Gary. "Hey, heard you're still doing that car thing. My neighbor needs a look at her brakes. Maybe I send her your way." No hello. No. "How are you?" "Just business." I didn't call back. But I did listen to the voicemail 5 times. Not because I cared about the referral, but because I heard something in his voice I hadn't before. Hesitation. Like maybe, just maybe, he realized the kid with grease on his shirt might be going somewhere after all. The break came on a Tuesday. Because, of course, it did. Big wins don't announce themselves with trumpets. They show up disguised as sweat and timing. I was finishing up a job behind Manny's Deli, replacing a rusted-out fuel pump for cash and a sandwich, when I heard a voice behind me. "You always work in parking lots?" I slid out from under the car, covered in road grime and elbow-deep in fumes. A man in his 60s stood there, arms crossed, gray beard, garage shirt with Dan's Auto stitched in faded blue. "Depends," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Is this your parking lot?" He cracked a smile. "Used to be. I'm Dan." Turns out, he'd owned a shop a few blocks down for 30 years. Was selling it. Not because business was bad, but because retirement in Florida suddenly sounded better than freezing winters and carburetor headaches. "You any good?" he asked. "Decent." He nodded at the Civic. "That fix hold?" "Ask her. She drove off 10 minutes ago with no leaks and a grin." He nodded again. "You work cheap." "Yeah," I said. "Because broke people don't have a union." He laughed at that one. Long and hard. The next day, he called me back. "Come by the shop. I got a guy flaking on a brake job. You up for it?" I was there in 20 minutes. What followed was 6 weeks of trial by rust. Dan didn't coddle. He didn't hand me the easy stuff. He watched. Observed. Let me trip over myself, then tossed the wrench without saying a word. It was the best mentorship I'd ever had. I learned how to run a lift properly, how to deal with customers who diagnosed it on YouTube, and how to negotiate with parts suppliers without getting fleeced. He paid me under the table. Bought me lunch sometimes. Let me lock up when he was out fishing. One night, out of nowhere, he handed me a key. "I'm leaving for good next month. You want this place?" I froze. "You mean, like, take over?" He nodded. "Buy it, lease it, whatever. You've got hustle. You've got hands. And this town could use someone who gives a damn. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I'd called every bank within 50 miles. Rejections came fast. No cosigner? Credit scores low? Auto repair isn't exactly scalable. But I'd learned by then, if the door won't open, check the back alley. I called my old instructor, Mr. DeMarco. He laughed like I'd offered him a time machine. You want a recommendation? Hell yes. You were the only kid who stayed after class to clean the oil traps. Between his letter, Dan vouching, and one loan officer who apparently believed in underdogs, I got a microloan. Barely enough, but just enough. I renamed the place Carter's Garage. New logo. New paint job. Same creaky front door and smell of brake dust. Opening day, I expected balloons. Crowds. At least a congrats from my mom. Instead, silence. No family showed. Uncle Gary posted a selfie with Brady at a crypto expo. Mom sent a text. Saw your shop opened. Proud of you. Wish Dad could see it. Dad being the ghost who left when I was 8. It stung. I won't lie. But then the first customer walked in. Flat tire. No spare. I fixed it in 15 minutes. She paid, smiled, and said, You explain stuff without making me feel dumb. I'll tell my friends. That was better than any banner. 1 customer became 3. 3 became 10. Word spread. I wasn't the best in town, but I was honest. I didn't sell parts people didn't need. I stayed late. I offered free diagnostics for high school kids and seniors. People noticed. The shop stayed open 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I missed birthdays. Skipped holidays. Slept in the office twice during snowstorms just so no one got stranded. And still, not a word from Uncle Gary. No visit. No email. No accidental drive-by. Which was fine. Because the silence? That was just another kind of fuel. The second shop came faster than I thought. A year into running Carter's Garage, I was booked out 3 weeks in advance, turning people away, working 12-hour shifts, and bribing myself with gas station coffee to keep moving. I wasn't sleeping much, but I was smiling more. That's when the guy from the next town over walked into my garage wearing a clipboard and a frown. You Derek Carter? Unless there's another guy covered in axle grease and bad life choices. He smirked. Name's Andre. I own a little repair joint in Oak Ridge. Used to be solid, but I'm moving south. Wanna buy it? I blinked. Buy your shop? He nodded. You've got the buzz. Customers keep talking about Carter's. I figured I'd offer it to you before I list it. I drove out that weekend. Oak Ridge was 15 miles east, bigger town, more traffic. The shop was rough but had bones. 3 bays. A front office with a flickering light that hummed like a bee with an attitude. I didn't hesitate. I called the same loan officer from before. He sounded surprised, but not hesitant. You've kept every payment on time, he said. That's rarer than a unicorn with a checking account. Loan approved. Lease signed. Keys in hand. Carter's Garage number 2 was born. I hired a guy I trusted from trade school. Paid him fair. Brought in the same no BS customer policy. Gave away free tire checks for single moms and veterans. It wasn't a marketing gimmick, it was just how I wanted to run a business. The results? Explosive. We broke even in 3 months. Profitable in 6. Local paper ran a story called Grease and Grit, Young Mechanic Builds Honest Empire. I didn't even know they were writing it. My customer Sarah from shop number 1 had tipped them off. But even that didn't move the needle with my family. When the article dropped, I posted a photo of it online. Caption: 2 shops. No shortcuts. Brady commented, Hustle's cute. Ever thought about scaling? Uncle Gary liked the comment. That was their version of support, a backhanded compliment wrapped in tech bro buzzwords. Still, Mom called that night. You've really made something, she said. Thanks. Maybe come by this Sunday. Gary and Brady are hosting a thing. They're curious about what you're doing. Curious? You know. About the business. How it works, I laughed. Let me guess. Brady needs an oil change and Gary wants to invest. Silence. Then she sighed. Derek, you know how they are. Yeah, I said. I do. That's why I'm not going. She didn't argue. Didn't call back for 2 weeks either. Instead, I got a group text. Family chat. Mom. Just thinking about Grandpa's old shop. He'd be proud. Brady. Can't believe Derek's actually making money with wrenches. Gary. You're proving us wrong, kid. Just don't forget the ones who raised you. I stared at that last message for a full minute. The ones who raised me? Pretty sure Gary's biggest contribution to my upbringing was calling me spark plug and betting I'd end up managing a Jiffy Lube. Still, I didn't respond. But I did order a billboard. Right off the highway between both shop locations. It wasn't flashy. Just a clean black background, big bold letters. Carter's Garage. 2 locations. Real work. Real respect. Carter does cars. Calm. Cost me more than I care to admit. But every time I drove by it, it felt like a line in the sand. A quiet, greasy mic drop. The call came in on a Friday. It was already one of those days. One of my techs called out sick, the coffee machine at shop number 2 exploded like it was protesting capitalism, and a customer tried to pay me with a Groupon from 2018. Then my phone buzzed. Caller ID, dispatch, Carter's Garage number 1. I picked up. Talk to me. A pause. Then Jolene, my front desk manager, whispered like she'd just seen a ghost. You might want to take this one personally. Why? Because the guy who just called sounds a lot like Uncle Gary. I blinked. What? He's stuck off Route 6. Mercedes SUV. Says he needs a tow fast. Asked for the owner. I didn't even ask for the address. I grabbed my keys, jumped in the branded tow truck, white cab, red stripe, bold Carter's Garage logo on both sides, and headed out. 20 minutes later, I saw it. A silver Mercedes, nose down in a ditch like it had tried to escape its driver. Hazard lights blinking. And there, standing on the shoulder in cargo shorts and sunglasses that cost more than my first tool set, was Uncle Gary. He was kicking gravel and swiping at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. I slowed the truck to a crawl, rolled down the window. Need a tow? He turned, squinting, confused, and then froze. His eyes darted from my face, to the logo on the truck, then back to the massive Carter's Garage billboard looming just across the highway. You could see the math happening behind his eyes. Derek? He said, stunned. You own this? Last I checked. He looked genuinely rattled. What are you doing out here? I own the tow company too. You tow people? No, I own the people who tow people. But this one felt personal. He didn't respond. Just looked back at the ditch like maybe it would open up and swallow him. I hopped out, hooked up his car like it was any other job, and opened the passenger door. You riding with me, or calling a rideshare that won't show? He climbed in, slowly. For the first 5 miles, he didn't say a word. Then, this truck's new? Last year's model. He nodded like he understood engines. He didn't. So, he tried. Carter's Garage. That your brand? Yep. Billboards, impressive. Thanks. More silence. Then he cleared his throat. Look, I know I gave you grief. Back then. About the mechanic thing. Back then? I repeated. You mean last Thanksgiving when you asked if I still played with wrenches for fun? He winced. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. He sighed. Okay, fair. But come on, Derek. You gotta admit, no one saw this coming. No, I said. You didn't. Another mile of awkward quiet. Then he tried again. Brady's been having a rough year. Startup folded. Crypto crashed. He's thinking about, well, something stable. Maybe cars? I nearly pulled over just to laugh. You're asking if I'd hire Brady? I mean, you've got shops. You need people, right? He's good with people. Maybe sales. I gripped the wheel tighter. You think I built all this just to offer internships to guys who called me a grease monkey for 10 years? That's not fair. No, I cut in. What's not fair is busting my back for 3 years, building something from zero, only for the same people who laughed at me to show up when they need a lifeboat. Gary looked out the window. I didn't know it meant that much to you. It didn't, I said. Not back then. But it does now. Because every insult, every eye roll, every get a real job, it built this. He didn't argue. Just sat there, quiet. When we pulled into the shop, I dropped the keys at the front desk. Tows free, I told Jolene. Repairs aren't. Gary stood there, blinking. You're not charging me? Oh, I am, I said. Just not for the tow. He didn't know what to say. So he said the only thing he could. You really did it. Yeah, I said. And I'm just getting started. Word travels fast in families, especially the kind that never shows up for you until there's money involved. By Monday, my phone was lighting up. Mom. Gary told me everything. I'm surprised. Proud, too. Maybe we can all get dinner soon. Brady. Heard about the shops. Love to hear your scaling strategy sometime. Let's collab. And then the kicker, an email with the subject line. Potential partnership, Carter's Garage. From Uncle Gary. I opened it expecting a half-hearted apology. Instead, it read like a PowerPoint pitch in sentence form. Given your rapid growth, I see a real opportunity for expansion. With my background in sales and Brady's in digital, we could help you scale to 5 or 6 shops easily. Maybe even franchise. Let's schedule a time to talk? I laughed so hard, Jolene thought I was having a breakdown. This man had once said auto repair was a dead end. Now he wanted equity. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I did something better. I hosted a customer appreciation weekend at shop number 1. Free tire checks, coffee, donuts, and raffle prizes. We even gave out branded keychains that said, Carter's Garage, real work. Real respect. Half the town showed up. Guess who else showed up, uninvited? Gary. And Brady. They strolled in like they were inspecting a startup they might invest in. Gary wore a blazer. Brady brought a ring light. I caught them mid-tour, Brady filming the lobby, Gary cornering one of my texts and asking about profit margins. I stepped in. Something I can help you with. Gary turned, all charm. Just soaking it in, nephew. Amazing what you've built. Really. I see potential everywhere. That makes one of us. He laughed, assuming I was joking. I wasn't. Brady held out a hand. Seriously though, you've got something here. People love authenticity. We can help you grow. Get you out of the daily grind. Think bigger, man. I stared at his outstretched hand. Then looked at Gary. Let me get this straight. After years of mockery, now you want to help me? Gary raised his hands. We were wrong. I admit it. But you've got the fire, Derek. That's what matters. Family supports each other. You mean family profits off each other? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is getting laughed out of every holiday dinner for fixing cars, and now, suddenly, I'm a startup you want to cash in on. Brady frowned. You don't want to grow? Oh, I am growing. Just not with passengers who only hop on after the train's already moving. Gary's face hardened. I'm just saying, you could do more. And I will, I said. But not with you. There was a moment, awkward, tense, full of half-swallowed pride and choking silence. Brady lowered his phone. Gary adjusted his collar like it had betrayed him. Then I smiled, nodded toward the garage bays. You're welcome to stick around. We've got a raffle coming up. First prize is a free oil change. You might need it. Your Mercedes was leaking confidence when I towed it. Jolene snorted behind the counter. Gary didn't laugh. They left 20 minutes later. No goodbyes. No handshakes. Just a quiet retreat into the parking lot. As they drove off, I looked at the growing line outside the shop. Customers. Regulars. People who trusted us. I didn't need investors in suits. I had believers in overalls. Opening a third shop wasn't part of the plan. But then again, neither was building a business just to prove everyone wrong. It started with a real estate guy, Carlos, one of my regulars, who came in with a flat tire and left with a question. You ever think about putting something out west? There's a place in Hillview with 2 bays, low rent, and a busted sign that still says Randy's Radiators. I'd driven through Hillview before. It was the kind of town where folks still waved at you from their porches and the best burger joint was inside a gas station. So I drove out the next morning. The shop looked like it hadn't seen daylight since Y2K. Broken windows, faded paint, and a waiting room that smelled like regret. It was perfect. I bought it for half what shop number 2 cost. Put my guys on rotating shifts. Renovated it top to bottom with help from the same crew that built my first lift. Installed new signage. Carter's Garage, Hillview. Same grit. More grease. Shop number 3 opened 6 weeks later. And that's when the real shift happened. A reporter from the State Business Journal emailed me. Said he'd been following my journey since the local feature. I want to do a story. Young entrepreneur. Blue-collar roots. 3 locations in under 4 years. It's rare. I agreed. Mostly because he wasn't trying to sell me crypto. The article went live a week later. The headline? From Spark Plug to Powerhouse, The Rise of Carter's Garage. It was flattering. A little dramatic. But it exploded. Customers doubled. Job applications poured in. Local schools started inviting me to speak at career days. Career days, the same events where no one had ever once said, "You know what? Try being a mechanic." Even the city council sent me a letter thanking me for stimulating small business growth. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in a while. Mom. I answered. Hi. Hi, honey. I saw the article. I waited. I just wanted to say congratulations. You've really made something. Thanks. And Gary, he read it too. Said he didn't realize how serious it all was. Because I never brought a pitch deck to Thanksgiving? She chuckled softly. I know he was harsh. We all were. You always seemed so stubborn. No, I said. I just stopped waiting for people to believe in me before I started. More silence. Then, quietly. Your dad would have been proud. I paused. You think so? He was good with his hands. Like you? He just never stuck to anything long enough. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said, thanks. When we hung up, I sat in the Hillview office, looking out at the lot. 3 cars waiting. 1 customer pacing with a coffee cup. My guys moving with purpose. It hit me then, not as a victory, but as a kind of quiet clarity. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about Gary. Or Brady. Or proving anything to anyone. It was about me. About the kid who used to change spark plugs in the alley and eat gas station sandwiches while dreaming of a real garage. Now, I had 3. And my name was on every single one. It was about a month after the Hillview shop opened when it happened. A Tuesday. Slow morning. I just finished walking the bays with my lead tech when Jolene called me from shop number 1. You're gonna want to hear this. She sounded giddy. Dangerous combination. Gary's back? Oh, better. He's stuck in traffic. Right in front of the shop. And he's just sitting there. Window down. Dead quiet. And guess what's right above him? I grinned. The billboard? The billboard. Now, a few months earlier, right after opening shop number 2, I'd taken out a new highway billboard. I wanted to plant a flag. Not for advertising. Just for me. It read, Carter's Garage, 3 locations and counting. Built from nothing. Backed by grit. Visit CarterDoesCars.com. I hadn't thought about it since. But there he was. Uncle Gary. In his silver Mercedes, the same one I towed, stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, staring at 30 feet of his least favorite sentence. Built from nothing. I drove over. Slowly. Parked just behind him in the service lot, far enough away not to be noticed right away. He hadn't seen me yet. Just sat there, jaw clenched, radio off, staring forward like the billboard owed him money. I stood behind a tinted window and watched. No horn honking. No rage. Just that kind of stillness people get when the world reminds them who they used to laugh at. He looked tired. But not the good kind of tired, not the tired from doing something that matters. The tired from trying to matter without doing anything. And I didn't feel anger. No revenge fantasies. No gotcha speech building in my chest. Just peace. Because it wasn't about rubbing it in anymore. It was about witnessing. Witnessing the moment when someone who underestimated you realizes you never needed their permission to become more. A few minutes later, traffic moved. He drove off. No idea I was even there. Back inside the shop, one of my techs asked if I wanted lunch. Yeah, I said. Let's hit that burger place down the street. Again? That's like 3 times this week. They know how I like my fries. And off we went. Just 2 guys, covered in grease, chasing down lunch. No suits. No investors. No LinkedIn bios. Just work. Real, satisfying, earned work. That night, I stayed late at shop number 1. Swept the bays. Took inventory. Replaced the dead light in the break room. Then I stepped outside and looked up at the billboard one last time. Cars zoomed past. Some probably noticed it. Most didn't. But I did. I saw every insult I'd ever swallowed layered into that vinyl. Every night I'd worked through dinner. Every early morning covered in frost and oil. Every phone call that never came. And all of it? It led here. 3 shops. Dozens of employees. Thousands of cars. One name. Mine.